It's 8:36. One South Bay community is reeling after an 8-year-old boy was hit by a car and killed while walking to school last Friday morning. The death of the third grader 1 block away from Castlemont Elementary comes as San Jose is dealing with a disturbing increase in the number of people hit and killed by cars on city streets. Looking back, there were 23 pedestrian deaths in San Jose in all of last year. So far this year, there have been 26 pedestrian deaths, with more than 3 months to go in 2022. San Jose's Mayor Sam Liccardo joins us this morning, as he does every month. Thanks for being with us, Mayor Liccardo.
Good morning, Gasia.
Are you familiar with that intersection in West San Jose where the 8-year-old died last week?
Yeah, devastating to lose an 8-year-old. I know that there have been some concerns at that T intersection about whether a stop sign could have done something to prevent this tragedy. There's no question we need to do more to look at all of our roadways to make them safer. We built this city in the 50s and 60s, all these roads at a time when the goal was to move traffic as quickly as possible. And clearly what we're seeing emerging, particularly with a nationwide spike in traffic collisions and deaths since this pandemic, we've really seen it in every big city. We've got to really focus now on making our roads safer, not simply a mechanism to move traffic quickly. And so we're investing a lot of money now in this effort. And with the help of Assemblymember Ash Collar, we've got about $10 million from the state. We're going to be working in those areas where the data is showing we have the highest rates of these kinds of tragedies. We obviously need to do much more.
In regard to what happened, you just said there were some concerns about that intersection, that perhaps a stop sign could have prevented the death. Had your office or San Jose PD been notified by residents or neighbors about that intersection in particular where the boy was killed?
No, I'm really relying on what I have been hearing and reading since the tragedy, since Jacob was lost. My understanding is that many neighbors we're concerned. And so obviously we need to do everything we can to get out in front of these problems, and that means making our roadways safer in advance. That's a lot of work, obviously, in a city that's 280 square miles. So we need to focus using data on where we believe those roadways are most unsafe, particularly in a lot of the high-speed corridors in East San Jose.
I'll mention to you that we at KTVU did hear from people who live in the neighborhood saying they had reached out to the city, not sure who or which department, but saying that they had taken their concerns to the city previously before the crash. Tell me a little bit about whether it's working or not, that, the process of I see something dangerous, I want someone to fix it, but in the end, this little boy died.
Yeah, that may well have been the case. I'm not aware of those specific complaints, but I can tell you we receive hundreds of complaints every week from residents throughout the city who believe traffic is too fast in their neighborhood. They're concerned about various roadway issues that may present safety concerns. The reality is that we have a very defined and scarce budget, and we need to focus our dollars on where the greatest risk exists. What the data is telling us in terms of where people are being harmed and where the greatest risk is, ironically, it's not in the neighborhoods. It's actually out on the higher speed roadways. That's where we're seeing the greatest number of fatalities and the greatest harm. And so that's where most of the dollars have been focused. I think there's no question, though, that we can do more in neighborhoods like this one around Castlemont, for example, with speed humps, stop signs, and so forth, to make the roadway safer.
I know residents there are certainly looking for some changes. Let's switch now, Mayor, to PG&E outages that affected thousands of people in San Jose just 2 weeks ago during that extreme heat week. Blown transformers were the result of record-breaking sustained heat, according to PG&E. You blasted the utility. PG&E CEO called you personally. What did Patty Poppe say about the situation?
Well, to her credit, I think she recognized the importance of PG&E getting in front of this before next year and making sure that they are making the preventative investments to avoid this kind of episode happening again. We saw it happen in 2020 and again this year. Obviously, we're out of patience, and that's why we set an October 31st deadline for a very clear capital plan from PG&E in terms of how they're going to replace transformers throughout the city that may be vulnerable to outages.
And it sounds like I read you wrote in Medium saying that you are still holding out the possibility of a lawsuit against PG&E if they don't perform to what you're hoping to see.
Yes, we're going to be meeting with PG&E in the weeks ahead, and we appreciate their willingness to sit down with us to ensure that they've got a plan in place in the weeks ahead to ensure this doesn't repeat itself when the heat waves come again next summer. Okay. We've got a lot of work to do. Let's see what happens, and October 31st we'll have an opportunity to look at the plan and decide what to do next.
Okay, let's also mention quickly here, you were in Washington, D.C. not long ago, there for the signing of the Inflation Reduction Act. How is that going to, in particular, benefit San Jose residents?
Well, I think there are two ways that it really will help a lot of residents. Certainly for seniors with prescription drug challenges, paying for very costly prescription drugs, now with the ability to better negotiate for lower drug prices in Medicare, I think we're going to see some of that cost come down for an awful lot of residents. And then secondly, really around helping so many of our residents who struggle with high utility costs, be able to take advantage of the green dividend, to be able to get rebates and tax credits, for example, for more energy efficient appliances, or be able to afford to purchase a used electric vehicle. Those kinds of benefits are really going to be helpful right now because utility costs will continue to increase.
Okay. San Jose Mayor Sam Liccardo joining us as he does every month. Thank you for your time this morning.
Great to be with you, Gasia.
Thanks.